Don't keep it all to yourself. Did you bring it just to flaunt it? You really are a piece of work. After all that, what are you going to do if weird rumors start spreading about you? I could spill it to the tabloids, you know. Mike has always been the same, never changing. Wow, long time no see. How have you been? Wow, good to see you made it. Voices of classmates can be heard from all around. It's lively and festive, but it feels like the chatter of bystanders that has nothing to do with me. I'm John, 30 years old. Today, I came to a middle school reunion. It's been a while since there was any news of one, but it seems there was a call to gather now that we've hit the big 30. Or they might have been holding reunions yearly. Maybe I just wasn't invited. That's the feeling I have. The venue is a hotel in downtown New York. While I'm not keen on meeting classmates, part of me is curious about what kind of adults they'd become. That's what I decided to come today, to put an end to that curiosity. Mike, a classmate from back then, was the organizer. The invitation came with his name on it. It was a thick card, the kind you'd think was for a wedding invitation. I saw him earlier at the reception, where he greeted me with a handshake and a friendly pat on the shoulder. Yet, his words told a different story. Got the invite, right? I sent it just to you. I'm connected with the others on social media, but you're a loner, aren't you? Not in touch with anyone. I didn't want you to get mad later for not being invited. I went through a lot of trouble, searching for your address. Even asking the teacher if there was an old roster. You should be grateful. Today's fun is all thanks to me. At that moment, I already regretted coming, but leaving would just make me seem like a sulking child, and that would be even worse. I nodded and gently patted his hand, still holding mine, as if to console him. And finally, I was free. Inside the venue, round tables were set up. There was no assigned seating, but I chose the seat farthest from the stage. It was empty, with no flowers in the center. It looked like a spare seat, but I chose it on purpose. No one would want to sit with me, nor did I want to talk to anyone. Even after I sat down, no one approached me. Yet, I could easily hear the excited conversations of those who were happy to see each other after a long time. Where do you live now? Those who ask are usually the ones who want to boast about their own place. They name-drop famous apartments and bask in the envy before modestly saying, "It's not all great, there are many challenges." This is more common among the women. For men, it's overwhelmingly about money and work. They talk about investments and business ventures while laughing, saying, "The economy's tough every year, isn't it?" Those who are truly struggling wouldn't show up here. In the end, reunions are just a broadening contest, a showcase of life achievements. It's where those who want to show off gather. Those who were at the top of the social pyramid back then continue to make their status known. Otherwise, it's about those who climbed up from the lower ranks showing off their success stories. If you were really close and enjoyed school life together, you'd meet up without needing a reunion. Regardless of where you stood in the social hierarchy, there wouldn't be any need to one-up each other or sulk, just companionship. I just don't have such friends. I still regret that even now. Although I regret it, I also believe it's unnecessary to try to reconcile and befriend them at this point. As I watched people enjoy the buffet, these thoughts crossed my mind. After a while, Mike, the MC, took the stage to give his speech. He has always taken the lead, from group leader to class president, then club president, and finally student council president. He's done it all. That's why he's the organizer and manages contact information on social media. I don't feel the slightest bit of remorse for being excluded from that circle. I'd hate to still be under his control. The venue dimmed a bit, and the school building was projected on the screen. I bet he was all eager making this slideshow too. I felt like I could predict what was coming next. Images from our album would be displayed, causing laughter and cheers. Sports festivals, field days, school trips, group photos, individual photos. The screen would change along with an ever-ending narration. It must have been collected from everyone. There were many photos that seemed to be taken among friends. In every one of them, everyone looked happy. We spent our sensitive years from 13 to 15 together. If that continues even now, it can be said that the school organization provided good friends. But I was left out of that. I wasn't one to speak up in class, nor was I much for chatting with peers. Not that I blamed or avoided anyone. I might have been the kind of student who wouldn't be missed if absent. Mike was the one who made a point of noticing me. I wasn't good at sports. I dreaded physical education classes. Mike excelled in volleyball. So, when I made a mistake in PE class, volleyball, he'd deliberately click his tongue or hurl insults like "you're useless." Knowing I was bad at it, he'd purposely send a ball my way. After such failures, I would be blamed by my classmates, and it was even said that we lost the first game of the sports festival because of me. From then on, I became his target. When it was time to choose class representatives, Mike would always nominate me. Then someone else would nominate him, and I'd end up being the laughingstock with only his vote. There were days I had to walk around in just my socks because my indoor shoes went missing, and times when my gym clothes were found in the trash. I wasn't one to dress sloppily or neglect my assignments or homework. That made it all the more difficult to find a solution, and I felt increasingly cornered. The thought of going to school the next day terrified me, causing my heart to constrict and my body to shake. Eventually, I developed alopecia areata. My mom was the first to notice and asked what was happening at school. At first, I was too ashamed to say anything, but once I started, I couldn't stop. At that time, I had severe acne. It wouldn't heal with medication, and my dad insisted that stress was the cause and even talked to the teacher about it, but nothing improved. The teacher always had the upper hand than parents who only believed their child's words. As a teacher responsible for the students' lives at school every day, I ended up spending time in the nurse's office, attending classes sporadically. Interestingly, such an atmosphere seems to spread like an infection, creating other cliques. Bullying became rampant among the girls too. The target was Sophia. She had severe atopic dermatitis, always with a reddened face. Her skin looked painfully itchy just by looking at it. It must have varied with her condition each day. The skin around her eyes was bright red, and there were times when blood seeped from behind her ears, perhaps from scratching too much. The girls found it revolting and stayed away, claiming it was contagious upon contact and treating her as if she were a germ. The one leading this was a tall girl named Lily. She always had 2 or 3 friends around her, and there was never a moment in the classroom buzz without Lily's voice. She was the center of attention and also the instigator. Today was no different, with her shrill voice resonating about apartments and overseas trips. Mike and Lily were the central figures in the classroom. Sophia and I were relegated to the bottom, barely making our presence known at the back. I stuck to my refusal to attend school until graduation, while Sophia transferred during the summer of our 3rd year. Now that we've seen some familiar faces, let's take a look at where everyone is today. Mike said that and started passing the microphone from the front row. This turned into a session where everyone bragged about themselves. Some inherited their parents' medical practices, became teachers, bankers, traders, and Mike was working at a well-known telecommunications company. Lily mentioned she had been modeling since college. I've also considered acting, and have auditioned for a few movies. You might have seen me as a boss lady Michelle in Beauty and the Beast Club, and as Maggie in Run, YouTuber. Did you catch those? I've got to aim for a leading role next time, mentioning minor roles in lesser-known movies as if they were significant achievements, which seemed rather pitiful. I think everyone felt the same way I did. She had been sending her applications to all sorts of auditions since middle school, trying to sell herself. While her enthusiasm was understandable, her voice wasn't one I wanted to keep listening to. Her lisping and dragging speech was annoying at this age. Pointing it out wouldn't change her, I suppose. As a microphone was passed around, some girls boasted about their children. Which kindergarten, what extracurricular activities, and so on. The men talked about their jobs, influential people they met through work, overseas assignments, and company struggles. Those without such stories simply expressed happiness at the reunion. Perhaps a more genuine sentiment. Mike facilitated the passing of the microphone. I planned to pass the mic without saying anything when it came to me, but as it reached me, Mike suddenly raised his voice with the mic in hand. And now, for our special guest of the day, he swung his arm towards the back door as if a singer was concluding their final song, and the heavy door beside my seat opened. In came Mr. Thompson, our homeroom teacher. His appearance sparked excitement, but I felt a growing sense of detachment observing their warm interactions. This was a complete surprise, as it seemed no one was informed. The room buzzed with excitement. But the more I saw their surprised and smiling faces exchanging greetings, the colder I felt. Was Mr. Thompson about our age back then? Now, he's become a middle-aged man. His hairline receded, and his belly protruded. He used to coach the boys' volleyball team. A guardian figure for Mike. Since his arrival, Mr. Thompson was often speaking loudly and frequently slapping backs or giving nudges. I've heard that his lack of manners, attributed to his youth, made him unpopular in the staff room. However, his coaching had led the volleyball team to significant achievements, a point of pride for him. It seems that hasn't changed much. When Mike moved to the front with him and handed him the mic, Mr. Thompson went up on stage and began to speak. Thanks for inviting me today. I was surprised when Mike contacted me. You guys are almost 30 now, right? That's double the age from back then. I've gotten older too. I was peeking at the slideshow from behind that door, and seeing it makes you look grown up. But really, nothing has changed. You were a noisy bunch back then, and you still are. Lily, were you born talking? Oh, stop it, Mr. Thompson. Yes, Lily was always like this, catching Mr. Thompson's attention even during class. The attention from a teacher like Mr. Thompson might have been a source of pride for Lily. The moment I realized I felt entirely different about receiving the same attention. Hey, John. Mr. Thompson's voice and gaze shot towards me. Back in the day, you were always at the back of the classroom, barely noticeable, so, have you gotten your act together? I had my share of troubles, with your parents complaining to me. You caused them grief by saying you wouldn't go to high school, but showing up here means you've become a respectable member of society, right? In contrast, Mike has always been good at leading others. I never thought he'd drag me into this. Anyway, make the most of your time and let your 30s bloom even more than before. It's like the start of your life is just beginning. After the applause, it was time for a fun quiz about our alma mater and beloved teacher. Mr. Thompson was the host, with Lily as his assistant. Holding the true or false cards we received at the reception, we answered the questions posed. With prizes on the line, everyone was quite serious. Don't talk to your neighbor. I'll penalize you. Mr. Thompson, enjoying a beer, seemed to be having a good time too. Since I didn't receive a card at the reception, I sat silently watching until Mike approached me. He started talking to me. Enjoying yourself? Sitting all alone here, as gloomy as ever. Listen, a reunion is a place for reconnection and new encounters. Even if you weren't cool back then, having skills can change how women see you. It's a perfect opportunity. But with that attitude, no one will come near you. What are you doing now? A part-time job, Mike began. No, I'm working at a company. Oh, so you have a decent job. I thought it'd be troublesome to ask about recent updates, so I spared you from the mic. What's this company? Something you started? No, it's not. I see. If you ever have trouble finding a job, let me know. I'm always here to talk. My business has endless possibilities. That's okay. I like my current company. Well, I guess business isn't for you. But with that attitude, you'll always be just an employee. Unless you make a lot of money and flash around a fancy apartment with your personality, you'll stay poor and never even think about marriage or love. Quietly, a side door opened and a woman entered. She was tall and elegant. Mike hurriedly stood up. Is this the reunion for Bluebell Junior High? Yes, that's why I'm here. But the guest list. John, sorry to keep you waiting. Seeing her wave at me, Mike said, Oh, are you with him? Mike, right. Don't you remember me? I guess it's no surprise if you don't. Yeah. Her voice was hard to hear over the noisy crowd. Leaning in, I said to Mike, who was staring at her. You can forget her, right? Weren't those your chosen photos in the slideshow earlier? Mike's face turned to shock. There was one photo of me in the slideshow. It was a photo with Sophia. Taken from the back of the classroom. It's unclear who snapped it. It was likely during self-study time. The photo seemed to be secretly taken through the gaps between other students. Sophia's face was reddened with rashes, and I had combed my hair to the side and used mousse to cover my alopecia. Mike went out of his way to showcase such a photo of the two of us in the reunion slideshow. I thought he was truly spiteful. I would never consult with someone like you, no matter what happens in life. Cut it be. I'm Sophia. Mike's eyes widened in shock. You weren't invited, were you? But since we were classmates, I contacted him. We don't need a table. We're fine here. Wait a minute. Mike walked up front and snatched the microphone from Lily. Everyone, our special guest for today has arrived, actress Sarah. Rushing back, he tried to lead Sophia to the front. Ignoring her wish to stay, he forcefully pulled her forward. The loudest cheer of the day erupted, and everyone stood up. Probably no one realized that the Sophia they knew and actress Sarah were the same person. But the applause was for the actress's arrival. I didn't realize. I've seen all her movies, but I had no idea that Sarah was Sophia. Thank you so much for coming. You must be busy, right? I saw on the news yesterday that you're filming a new project. Mike was stuttering, his face flushed with excitement. Sophia seemed a bit taken aback by his enthusiasm. Please, go ahead and speak as much as you like. Wow, it's an honor to have you visit us. But weren't you in the middle of a game? Oh, that's nothing important. We were just killing time, right, teacher? Absolutely. But why would a successful actress come here? She was mentioned in the slideshow earlier. No, maybe everyone doesn't remember. She transferred schools. I didn't have her address, so I couldn't invite her. John told me about it. Oh, is that so? You know each other? Well, yes, we were classmates. Right. You transferred during our third year, didn't you? How have you been since? You seemed quite frail back then. Mr. Thompson is speaking to Lily, who's sulking after having the microphone taken from her. He probably doesn't remember. He tended to pay attention only to the students who were assertive and stood out. Finally, Mike passed the microphone. Sophia, dressed simply in a knit and skirt, stood out as more elegant than the overly dressed-up girls. She truly looked the part of a professional. Her skin and hair had a different glow. Hello, I'm Sophia. I'm now working as an actress under the name Sarah. I joined you today on a whim. I didn't expect many of you to remember me, but my middle school years were largely spent here. I've recently taken on a role as a school teacher and wanted to revisit the atmosphere of those days. I'd rather forget my own time here. With severe eczema and a miserable personal life, including my family's financial struggles and a poor relationship with my parents. I understand if you have a bad impression of me. I don't have many fond memories of school myself, but those times led to who I am today, so I don't want to erase them. I transferred schools due to my parents' circumstances and moved during the summer, so I couldn't say goodbye. It's been on my mind ever since. Thank you for everything back then, although it may be difficult to meet again. I look forward to your continued support. Applause and cheers followed her speech. Please continue without me. I'll just watch from the back. No, wait, everyone must have questions, right? As Mike hastily stopped her, the cheers grew louder. After setting up 2 chairs on the stage, he announced, "Let's have a Q&A session with our esteemed classmate, Sarah. Raise your hand if you have a question. Lily, bring her something to drink." People scrambled to move chairs and tables for a better view and to take pictures. Some are setting up side tables, others are recording. It's like a press conference or a talk show. Mr. Thompson watched from the front, and Lily, sulking after being snatched the microphone, brought over 2 juices before heading off to the buffet to load up her plate. Sophia was bombarded with questions about her acting career and celebrity friendships. Lily sat down next to me with a plate of food. "What's this all of a sudden? When did you two get so close to share reunion details? Did you not want her to come? It's not that, but when did she enter showbiz? She must have been in it for a while now, right? If you're that curious, why not ask her yourself instead of sitting here?" At my words, Lily said, "Humph," and started eating alone, making a face as if she had no interest. "Aren't you going to eat, John?" "No, I have somewhere to go." "Huh? Why did you come to the reunion then? Someone you wanted to see?" "No, just curious about what reunions are like." "They are more boring than you'd think, huh?" Despite the lively atmosphere earlier. I almost burst out laughing at her comment. All they talk about is how hard it is to take out the trash from the 30th floor, or how their husbands' corporate dinners involve spouses too. It's all so domestic. It's not like they are just housewives. It's dull. And yet, the celebrity she aspired to be was right there, turning her back to eat in such a situation. So, she felt upstaged and was downcast. That's right, she's only had minor roles twice. Too embarrassed to mention it, I suppose. In my mind, I kept unleashing all I wanted to say to Lily. Sophia, after transferring, was scouted on the street several times but initially declined. However, she reluctantly accompanied a friend and ended up winning an audition. Roles opposite popular idols, commercials with famous composers, lead roles in dramas, collaborations with young actors. Her career took off rapidly, and she continued to be a prominent figure. But no one realized she was our classmate, Sophia. She had changed that much. Hey, hasn't she had plastic surgery? That's why she looks so different. Lily, looking confident, turned to me, and I firmly responded, "Isn't that more about you? You came to school with a swollen nose at the start of a new term. Sophia still has a sharp nose." Before I finished speaking, Lily stood up with her plate in hand. Lily had nose surgery in middle school. It was obvious to everyone with her unnaturally swollen nose. She was supposed to transform during spring break, but the swelling didn't subside afterward. Unable to miss the new term, she attended school regardless. During spring break, she went to Mexico for aftercare, which became a topic of discussion in our class. And yet, she had the nerve to say such things to others. Had she forgotten about her own cosmetic procedures? I was astounded. "I'm sorry, but I have to go now. I'm running out of time. It was nice to see everyone. I wish I could have enjoyed my school days more, but it was mostly regrettable. However, seeing familiar faces today made me happy. I hope for your continued support." After Sophia concluded, She took a few commemorative photos and descended amidst applause. "Sorry for the wait. You must be hungry. Let's go," she said softly, with a chuckle. We stood up and left through the door together. Mike chased after us. "Where are you two going? You're in a hurry because you have plans, John. Why have you been in touch all this time? Why didn't you tell me? See you later. Enjoy the reunion," I said, leaving Mike fumbling for his business card in his jacket pocket as we entered the elevator. Through the closing doors, I saw Mike stamping his feet in frustration. Inside the elevator, Sophia smiled contentedly. Back then, Sophia suffered from her parents' neglect. Her home was a mess, with nothing to eat. Her father couldn't quit drinking, and her mother was overwhelmed by his debts. One day, her mother, claiming to have overnight work, never returned. "Let's sort out the debts and leave this house together," her mother used to say like a mantra, yet, despite this, she left Sophia behind. Living with her foul-mouthed, drunk father, Sophia's skin condition worsened. Yet no one would pay for her treatment. In the dead of winter, their gas was cut off, they couldn't bathe properly, and had to use an electric kettle for warmth. Unable to pay for school meals, her father told her not to eat. She reluctantly lied about her eczema, saying she couldn't eat the same menu as everyone else. Mr. Thompson didn't pay much attention. The school nurse invited her to eat in the infirmary, but she was too modest to go. During lunchtime, Sophia would disappear, and no one seemed to care. My father is a dermatologist. He's the one who treated my alopecia areata. At that time, I described a condition of Sophia's skin and asked if he could prescribe some medicine. My dad said he couldn't prescribe any medication without seeing the condition first. After some hesitation, I finally approached Sophia. I told her there would be no charge for the treatment. Perhaps that's why she finally agreed. Initially, Sophia was silent. She must have been worried about being exposed at school and now having to show her condition to a doctor as well. She probably didn't want to be questioned either. Indeed, my father was surprised to see Sophia's condition. It wasn't just the skin. Her dirty uniform and emaciated appearance made it clear this was no minor issue. He considered reporting it to Child Protective Services, but Sophia was against it. She wanted to wait for her mom and didn't want to go to a facility. For the time being, to avoid worsening the situation, we tucked Sophia in to stay with us. Seeing Sophia and me being ostracized at school, my parents couldn't remain indifferent. It was during the summer vacation of our third year in middle school. My mom was a hairdresser, and my sister was already working as an esthetician at that time. There was an apartment above the beauty salon where my sister lived, and she let us stay there. Sophia was taken to a clean room with air conditioning and couldn't stop crying in front of my mom and sister. Thanks to my father's treatment and a change of environment, her skin gradually improved. We contacted Sophia's father to let him know we wanted to focus on her treatment, but he showed no interest except to insist that we not ask for money. My mom tidied up and trimmed Sophia's hair, while my sister gave her some of her own clothes to wear. Sophia originally had cool-looking eyes, more beautiful than pretty. Seeing her skin gradually improve also gave me a sense of satisfaction. My father, the son of a surgeon, chose dermatology against opposition. My mother fulfilled her childhood dream of becoming a hairdresser. Because of such parents, I was never forced into a specific path. They said it was okay not to go to school if it was causing me stress to the point of losing my hair, so I stopped even going to the nurse's office around that time. There was talk of transferring schools, but I hated the idea of entering a new environment with my condition. I fell behind in my studies, but a tutor my dad arranged for came to our house. Sophia studied with me as well. On days off, My sister would take us to the library or movies, and sometimes we served as practice models for her aesthetic training. At the end of the summer, Sophia's mom returned from a resort. Even with me there, she deeply thanked my parents. She had come into some money and decided to leave her husband and start new with her daughter. Tired of a life pursued by debt and having prioritized earning over child rearing, she confessed to sacrificing Sophia and cried. Thanks to our help, she was able to settle her debts and make a fresh start. Sophia's mom found a job in a different district to avoid her ex-husband and rented a room there. Sophia had to change schools and moved away. My dad made her promise to come back anytime if needed, and my mom got her to promise to visit the salon at least once a month. My sister, who saw Sophia as a younger sibling, was sad to see her go. After starting high school, Sophia was scouted on the street twice but declined due to her distrust of adults. However, a friend who was with her was keen, and they ended up applying for an audition together, which led to new opportunities. The friend who applied with her is now her manager. I didn't go to high school. Tired of school and classmates, my mom took me to the salon to do odd jobs. Sweeping after cuts, folding towels, handling the cash register. She probably wanted to avoid me shutting myself in. I'm grateful for that to this day, and working alongside my mom, I grew interested in beauty, which helped my condition improve. I enrolled in high school a year late because I needed a high school diploma to attend beauty school. Since I had a clear goal, I was able to move forward. I used to shampoo my mom and sister's hair, and even cut Sophia's hair. After working as a hairdresser for 5 years, I switched careers and now work as a beauty products distributor. I have no regrets about my current life. Until we got here, we always encouraged each other. During Sophia's debut, we were very careful to avoid scandals, but we still maintain a family-like relationship with her. My sister's aesthetic salon employs Sophia as an exclusive model, and through her introduction, both my dad and mom now have celebrity patients and clients. Looking back, it seems like a dream come true. That evening, I received a call from Mike. Hey, are you hunting her all to yourself? Did you bring her just to show off? You're really mean-spirited. After all that, what if some weird rumors about you start circulating? Like she dished the reunion for a guy, planning to snitch. Why would I? I'm just saying, be careful not to let that happen. Anyway, I want to meet her too. I'm currently into this health food online business, and it would really help if she could support it. She said she doesn't like that kind of stuff. What? Acting all-knowing. I could spill this to the tabloids, you know. That's just like you, only thinking about yourself, same as always. What's that supposed to mean? Check her social media. She wrote that she had a great time. Yet, if you peddle scandals, you might never be treated as a classmate again. Considering our past, it's a miracle she even attended today. Mike fell silent, and I hung up. The movie Sophia is about to shoot is about a young female teacher set in a middle school. She was asked by the director about her middle school life and shared everything. Despite it being a dark past, she hoped revealing it would inspire children in similar situations. Sophia is actually involved in charity work for underprivileged children, and the movie project started from there. They decided to base the story on real events, even including a child actor modeled after Sophia as a student. While addressing discrimination based on appearance and environment, the movie is meant to be enjoyable and lighthearted. She said she wouldn't have accepted the role if it was too serious, as it would be too painful for her. In the end, the protagonist, a female teacher, goes to a reunion, resolves old grievances, and settles past entanglements. The idea of attending the reunion came up while preparing for the role, and she expressed her desire to go. Of course, it wasn't just for the role. Sophia also had a desire for revenge. By boldly revealing her miserable past and showing how she overcame it, she was saving herself. If anyone remembered the past, she didn't want to be remembered as she was. She never wanted others to expose how things used to be. I think the reunion, where she could reveal herself and show where she is now, was a good opportunity. Sophia's filming progressed smoothly, and before the movie's kickoff, she announced our engagement through social media. The post mentioned how meaningful this movie was to her, as it reflected her past self, supported by her fiancé and his family. I wasn't in the spotlight, but received many warm congratulations. The completed movie featured names that were clear nods to our past, with characters like the homeroom teacher Mr. Thompson, the class president Michael, who was good at handball, and the queen bee Libby. But no one could complain, because there wasn't a single lie. In interviews and stage greetings, Sophia consistently expressed her wish for everyone to enjoy their student life. Even after escaping a tough environment, the dark past lingers in one's heart. Both Sophia and I carry such scars, but we're saying it's time to stop dwelling on the past and harboring resentment. Never forgetting to be grateful to people, we'll focus solely on our future. Because building a better life is the only way to heal the wounds of the heart. Why did Dad ever support someone like you? You're completely useless, a total waste of space. You're fired as of today. Get out of the company now. I was suddenly called in and hit with this unreasonable notice of termination. Why did it come to this? When I told my wife, disheartened, she just smirked in a way that seemed almost sinister. That company is finished now. My name is David, and I'm 40 years old. I had the fortune of working at a major publishing company. I lost my father when I was young, and my mother raised me on her own. Being poor, I loved reading books at the library, where I practically lived. Books introduced me to various worlds and took me on countless adventures. I've always aspired to be an author, to create such worlds myself. I tried to enter competitions as a student but never even came close. I lacked literary talent, and I couldn't afford the luxury of chasing a writer's dream. This was especially true after losing my mother in middle school. Living with relatives on a temporary basis until high school graduation, I felt out of place and spent as much time as possible at the library. Upon graduating from high school, I had to move out, which meant giving up on going to college and finding a job instead. I wanted a job related to books, even if I couldn't write novels. Perhaps I could support those who did. Job options for a high school graduate were limited. It was during this anxious job hunting phase that President Parker, the current president, reached out to me. We often met at the library, discussing books and sharing recommendations. One day, he said, "You are always here. Do you love books that much?" I've always loved books and even aspired to be a writer. Have you given up on being a writer? I haven't given up the dream of being a writer, but I told President Parker about my family's poverty, my mother's death, living with relatives, and the necessity to find a job instead of going to college. If you must work instead of pursuing further studies, how about trying for an interview at my company? We normally look for college graduates, so it might be tough for a high school grad like you, but someone with your passion could make it. All I can offer is to make an interview slot available for you. What do you say? I'll do it. Please give me the opportunity. I jumped at the offer immediately. A chance to work at a major publishing house as a high school graduate was unthinkable. If this opportunity doesn't work out, I'm willing to do any kind of field work. I didn't want to waste this chance and approached the interview with full determination. That's how I joined a company, working as an editor for 25 years since I was 18. Now, I manage several popular authors, and although I feel sorry for my wife Sarah, I find my work fulfilling. Sarah's understanding of my job is something I'm grateful for, and it's her support that allows me to devote so much to my work. Though I wish I could spend more time with our 3-year-old son, Tyler. President Parker, who had been in poor health for some time, passed away. Losing President Parker, who had been like a father to me since the day he gave me a chance after our conversation in the library, was unbearable for me. Thanks to his guidance, both strict and kind, I, a high school graduate, was able to perform on par with college graduates as an editor and as a person. I owe my current position of handling many authors to President Parker. Among them, taking charge of the company's leading author and literary giant, Mr. Anderson, was a source of pride for me. Mr. Anderson was challenging to work with, leading many editors to be reassigned quickly. President Parker, my predecessor, had a relationship with him, and they used to call each other comrades rather than friends. When I was assigned Mr. Anderson, I felt recognized by President Parker, and it was an incredibly proud moment for me. Though I felt a huge void in my heart from losing President Parker, who I regarded as a father figure and to whom I owed so much, work still wouldn't wait for me. Do you think he'd want you to stop here? Pull yourself together. You won't do him any honor like this. Mr. Anderson also said the same and gave me a pat on the back. There are readers waiting for our authors' works, and the authors are working hard to meet those expectations. I can't afford to stand still. President Parker's passing has left more than just me in despair. His amiable nature had won him the love of many, and his sudden death has deeply affected not only the employees, but also many of our affiliated authors. During this time, Alex Parker took over as the new president. Alex, the only son of the previous president, and to me, he's like a younger brother, though we are years apart. Ever since President Parker took me under his wing, I've been invited to dine with the Parker family numerous times and have shared meals with Alex. President Parker used to say, "Broadening your horizons is crucial for an editor. Spend some time with my son too," and he would take us to various places to hang out. Alex, with his impeccable manners and charm, didn't seem like a typical heir, and he grew fond of me, calling me Big Brother. President Parker, Alex, and his wife were like a second family to me. After graduating from college, Alex spent a few years working in a different field under the guise of training to learn the basics of management. Knowing that Alex was coming to the company to take over as president brought me relief. I was also happy to see Alex again and was looking forward to working together. I hadn't been in touch with him since he graduated from college. I wonder how he has grown. However, I was shocked to find that the Alex I knew had changed completely. He became tyrannical, lashing out at subordinates unjustly, and was quick to terminate contracts with authors whose sales dipped even slightly. He adopted a short-sighted sales-first philosophy, only aiming for blockbuster hits. "This book isn't selling well. Who wrote this? We don't need such people in my company. Cancel the contract." But President Parker, this book was just released recently, and the author has produced numerous hits before. Shut up. What does it matter if they were successful before? It's meaningless if they are not selling now. We can afford to keep underperforming authors. Cancel the contract immediately. The company's atmosphere became tense, and the employees couldn't hide their unease. Then, one day, I was summoned to Alex's office. "Hey, do you even care about your job? Just because you have one best-selling author doesn't mean you can get cocky." As soon as I entered the room, Alex slammed his desk, intimidating everyone around. "I'm doing everything I can. What's gotten into you, Alex? Why have you changed like this? I'm not the same person I used to be. Don't call me casually. I'm the president," Alex screamed, his face turning red. "I never liked you to begin with. Just because my dad favored you, you think you can act like a big brother. That was never my intention. Look at this. The only author under your charge who's selling well is Mr. Anderson. What are the other authors doing? What's the point of having editors?" Alex tossed the sales report at me as if discarding it. "True, Mr. Anderson is a big seller, but that doesn't mean the others aren't selling. Every author has their fans, and that's why we've come this far." If they're not selling like Mr. Anderson, what kind of authors are they? Making dull stuff interesting is the editor's job. If the author's work is boring, it's up to you to tweak it and make it sellable. Weren't you an aspiring author? That would no longer make it the author's work. I was at a loss. Authors exist because of their fans. If we, as editors, start meddling too much, we'll leave the fans behind. Don't you dare instruct me. You're a mere high school graduate. What do you know? Even if we collaborate on creating a work, altering it without the author's consent is never permissible. Have you forgotten the principles of your predecessor? Didn't Alex still respect his father, President Parker, as a son? Did he? I couldn't tell. Something had changed him beyond my understanding. I'm the president now. My father is no longer here. You've got some nerve defying me, a mere high school grad. Alex wouldn't even look at me anymore. No matter what you say, I won't alter the works. The predecessor treasured the author's originality above all, and I believe that collaborating while preserving that integrity is the editor's role. I appealed to Alex with a glimmer of hope, believing that President Parker would never have wanted the works altered. Why did my dad ever support someone like you? You're just incompetent trash, and you're fired as of today. Get out of the company now. I never expected to leave on such bad terms and was deeply disheartened. Was I too naive to think we could understand each other if we just talked? Dwelling on it won't change anything. Being fired is a fact that won't change no matter how much I think about it. I have a family to consider. I gathered my belongings and left the company. I'm home. Sarah, I'm sorry to spring this on you, but I have something to tell you. Welcome back. Oh my, you look pale. What happened? As soon as I got home, I confided everything to my wife. She listened intently to the end, comforted me, and made some coffee. Even in such times, my wife remained kind and understanding, and her gentleness felt more profound than ever, given my disappointment with Alex's transformation. Yet, curiously, my wife had a mischievous smile on her face. Het, that company is done for. David, you'll be busy again soon, so let's take it easy for a bit. Don't worry, everything will be fine, she said before leaving the room to make a phone call. A few days later, I received a call from Alex. Hey, David, what do you think you're doing? Is this some kind of revenge? This is why high school grads are incompetent. It seemed that the authors I was responsible for had initiated a collective boycott, causing significant disruptions to the company's operations. And the ringleader appeared to be Mr. Anderson, the literary giant I had been managing. Of course, I had no knowledge of this. My wife, sitting across from me, smiled triumphantly. Mr. Anderson, the company's flagship author, is a living legend whose works will be celebrated for centuries, thanks to his numerous awards, including the Nobel Prize. His influence among authors is immeasurable. With Mr. Anderson leading the charge, the uproar was significant, and the boycott quickly became a hot topic in the media. However, the boycott wasn't just due to Mr. Anderson's influence. The alterations Alex had instructed in the work were exposed to both the author and the readers after publication. Every author has their fans, and fans can tell when a work has been altered. I read your new work. You've changed your style quite a bit, haven't you? I preferred your previous style. In this era of social media, such direct feedback from readers can make authors suspicious. One by one, the alterations came to light, and the uninformed authors were furious, leading to a massive scandal for the company. Not only did the authors lose faith in Alex's company, but so did their readers, resulting in the company's bankruptcy and its eventual absorption by a larger entity. Alex was forced to resign, and all executives involved in the alterations were dismissed, left to fend for themselves. A few days after the scandal, I visited Mr. Anderson's home. Mr. Anderson, I can't thank you enough for everything. What are you talking about? Even without my intervention, that company would have collapsed sooner or later. I just added a bit of flair to the proceedings. More importantly, You're an exceptional editor who has always worked with the same passion for books as the authors themselves, regardless of our familial connection. Any company foolish enough to fire you is making a big mistake." And there's my father-in-law, Mr. Anderson, laughing heartily. "It's been 15 years since I joined the company, and 10 years since I became Mr. Anderson's handler. Even on that day, Mr. Anderson praised me just like this. 'David, how long has it been since you became my editor?' 'It's been 10 years. I've learned so much from you, Mr. Anderson.' 'Is that so? You've always been so humble. I have a serious proposal for you, and I won't force you, but please give it some thought." And that's how I was introduced to Mr. Anderson's daughter, my now wife, Sarah. He saw potential in me as a marriage partner based on my character and work ethic. Although we were only slightly acquainted from my visits to their home, a 5-year courtship followed, leading to our marriage. On the day I was fired, the person my wife was calling was none other than Mr. Anderson. She had been consulting with her father about the company's internal affairs, which I had shared with her, and Mr. Anderson had been concerned about the company's future ever since the predecessor's passing. As a result, the company's disregard for its authors became public, and Alex was forced to resign, leading to the company's bankruptcy. After the scandal, I became the president of the merged company, thanks to Mr. Anderson's strong recommendation. I'm navigating through each day with little understanding of management, constantly learning and keeping busy. Thanks to my diligent and honest work ethic, I've earned considerable trust from the offers I've managed so far and am gradually regaining my former self. We're also focusing on training new recruits to prevent past mistakes. Despite the overwhelming workload, I find fulfillment in facing this critical juncture. One day, a subordinate rushed into my office. "President Johnson, among the job applicants, it seems Alex was among those scheduled for an interview in a few days." "Alex, huh? All right, I'll talk to him." "Really? After everything he did? Are you sure?" "It's okay. He's actually the son of the former president, Mr. Parker, and was raised almost like a brother by him. There must have been some reason for that incident. I'll go and have a proper talk with him, and I'll take responsibility for his actions." Despite the criticism and my employees' apprehension, I decided to conduct a one-on-one interview with Alex. I was concerned about Alex and wanted to have a proper conversation with him. On the day of the interview, Alex appeared as he used to be. "David, I'm truly sorry for what happened, and thank you for giving me this opportunity." "Well, there must have been some circumstances I'm not aware of, Alex. Sit down, let's talk." Alex shared his story in bits and pieces. While on assignment, he was entrusted with a crucial project and worked tirelessly with a colleague to ensure its success. However, on the day of the project, a mistake by his colleague led to the loss of critical data, and despite their best efforts to recover it, the project ended in failure. The colleague, who was a distant relative of the company's president Williams, shifted all the blame onto Alex, leaving him with no place in the company. Then came the news of his father's passing. The project's failure had already eroded Alex's confidence, and he found himself unable to trust anyone, making the prospect of taking over the company daunting. Nevertheless, he felt he couldn't let his father's company fail and became obsessed with chasing numbers. "I now realize how foolish I was, and I said terrible things to you, David." Seeing Alex talk through tears brought me a bit of relief. His core character hadn't changed. "Alex, I'm glad you opened up. What you did was inexcusable, but years have passed since then, and Alex is now a vibrant part of our company." Together, we apologized to the employees and authors multiple times, gradually regaining their trust. Alex was always a sincere and diligent young man. It wasn't too difficult for him to regain trust with his work ethic and honesty, even though it took some time. After that interview, Alex and I spent a lot of time catching up. Memories of growing up like siblings, thoughts of the departed predecessor, and considerations for the future. In our lengthy conversations, I realized how much I had been supported by those around me, including what I had received from the late President Parker. Now it was my turn to give back to Alex, to support him through whatever comes our way. Alex, I want to pass on what I received from the predecessor through you. No matter what, I'm on your side. If you ever have any trouble, don't hesitate to talk to me. We took advantage of Alex's secondment experience, and he is now managing the company's operations, not as an editor. He actively sought input from younger employees, and under his influence, our company's performance has continued to rise in a struggling publishing industry. This success is something neither the predecessor nor I could have achieved alone. It's thanks to the fresh perspective Alex brought to the company. Our performance has significantly improved since Alex joined us. It's not just my achievement. The groundwork was laid by you and Dad, which made this possible. Now, without a father, Alex and I support each other like real brothers, running the company together. At first, people said I was too kind-hearted for putting up with someone like that, and it seemed like Alex was severely scolded by Mr. Anderson as well. You can regain the trust you've lost, no matter how long it takes. Remember, your actions don't just affect you, but also David, who took you in. I'm watching, Mr. Anderson said with a strict yet kind gaze. These years have been full of various events, but they've also been a time when I truly felt blessed by the people around me. My parents, who raised me with all their might despite being poor, and President Parker, who took me in and raised me after my parents passed away. And even after becoming independent, I met my mentor Mr. Anderson and was able to be with Sarah, who has always been devotedly supportive. I've been supported by the employees and authors, which helped me get this far. Alex certainly made an unforgivable mistake, but would he have erred in such a way if it weren't for his experiences at the assignment location? However, it's also true that he was able to grow from that incident. Yet, that incident also led to growth and was a turning point for the company. We might have lost trust once, but now we continue to lead in the publishing industry. Am I doing enough to repay President Parker? Recently, thanks to Alex's enthusiastic work, I've been able to spend more time with my family at home. David, you've worked hard enough. Now it's my turn to step up. Are you sure? Don't overdo it. Oh dear, if you worry that much, it seems like you don't trust Alex, does it? But Alex has got this now, let's go. Right, don't worry, I'll call if anything happens. The team you've built is capable. Time for some family service. Today, we're off on a family vacation, thanks to Alex and the team who made sure I could take some time off. All right, I'm leaving things in your hands for a while. See you soon. Living honestly and with integrity has brought me this far. Grasping my family's hands, I cherished the blessings in my life. In a lavishly extravagant venue, rows of beautifully arranged tables adorned the space. Among them, one table seemed isolated, almost like an afterthought, where a nameplate bearing my name was placed. It was a joyous celebration for my respected brother. I had come to intimately share in his happiness. There was no reason for me to be treated like an outsider, secluded at a distance. A regular employee with a low education sits at the back, she whispered in a low voice, her laughter echoing as if she found great joy in the statement. Just as I was about to raise my voice in protest, a gentleman approached me. Could you be, by any chance, Mr. Smith? Yes, that's me, but who might you be? A gentleman with impeccable manners. He was a well-known investor in the industry. Graciously, he thanked me, attributing his success to my efforts. At your service, sir. It's all thanks to you. Upon the gentleman's words, one man started to clap. This applause gradually spread to others, and before I knew it, the surrounding people were looking at me with eyes filled with respect. My name is Henry, 43 years old. I have been working in an IT company for many years. My brother, James, who has watched over me since high school and into my career, has become the pride of my life as a successful entrepreneur and chairman of a major corporation owning multiple companies. When I was in middle school, our parents died suddenly in an accident. Fresh out of college, my brother took over our parents' steering retail business. After graduating from middle school, I intended to help, but my brother insisted otherwise. He urged me to go to high school for my future prospects and even managed to cover the expenses. Thanks to him, I was able to attend a high school that specialized in the field I was interested in and graduated with excellent grades. However, by that time, our family business had significantly deteriorated. As we faced the possibility of bankruptcy, my brother encouraged me to find a job elsewhere. I resisted, wanting to help with the business, but he said, "If the company goes bankrupt, we'll both be left with nothing. I don't want to drag you into this." My brother said this with a kind smile. That smile, reminiscent of our father's, also spoke of the hardships he had faced and the years they had added to his appearance. "Besides, you've always been interested in IT companies, haven't you? Don't worry about me and follow your own path." Moved by his words, I nodded for my tears. Indeed, I lacked the commercial knowledge and experience at the time to be of any help to my brother. I resolved to succeed in the IT industry and support him whenever needed. With that determination, I pursued my own path. For over 2 decades, I worked tirelessly. The IT industry was rapidly evolving, and companies that couldn't keep up were quickly left behind. Throughout this time, I continued to learn and adapt to the ever-changing technology landscape. Meanwhile, our family business stabilized, and my brother expanded his ventures, eventually leading his company to go public. "Someday, I'll establish a company where you can work. I'll be counting on you then." "Understood. I'll make sure to be there for you when the time comes." That promise was about to become a reality. At the same time, my brother, who had missed his prime marrying years, had finally decided to get married. He met his bride-to-be, Emily Parker, a woman in her 20s, through a prearranged date. Emily's father was an executive at my brother's company, which led to the matchmaking. Initially, my brother felt sorry for her due to her young age, but it turned out that Emily had fallen for him and pursued him vigorously. Despite the age difference, it won't be a problem if she truly loves my brother. I had convinced myself of this. The first time I met Emily was when my brother introduced us, following his announcement of their engagement. "This is my brother, Henry, and this is Emily." "Nice to meet you, Henry." Upon my brother's introduction, Emily flashed a brilliant smile. Emily gave off a flamboyant and glamorous vibe overall. Then, my brother's phone rang. "Excuse me, I need to step away for a moment." As soon as my brother left, Emily's demeanor changed completely. The smile vanished, replaced by a scrutinizing gaze. "Which university did you graduate from, Henry?" "Well, I didn't actually go to college." At my words, Emily blinked exaggeratedly. "Oh my, James told me about that, but I can't believe it. To think you're really just a high school graduate, and to show up dressed like this." I was stunned by her blatant contempt. Indeed, we were in a private room of a high-end restaurant located at the top floor of a hotel. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't even come near a place like this, and my suit was an off-the-rack, budget-friendly option. She must have noticed that at a glance, indicating she comes from a rather affluent background. But that's no excuse for looking down on others. "I'm sorry about my attire. I should have been more careful." However, regarding my high school, I tried to explain that my high school was well known in the industry for specializing in a specific field. But I never got to finish my sentence. Splash! With that sound, the water from the glass Emily was holding was thrown in my face. There's no need for such unpleasant talk. It's truly despicable that someone like you is leeching off James. Emily's gaze was ice cold and filled with disdain. I'm sorry, I'm back. What happened here? Seeing me drenched, my brother hurriedly took out a handkerchief and wiped my face. It's nothing. I just spilled some water, that's all. Does spilling water usually result in this? I assured my brother it was nothing and stood up. I'm sorry, brother. I'm not dressed appropriately, so I'll be heading home now. Yeah, you shouldn't catch a cold. Take care on your way home. I'm not a child, you know. I left the restaurant with a laugh at my brother's words. Throughout that time, Emily glared at me from behind my brother, her contempt and malice palpable. With a mix of fear and frustration, I made my way home. Days passed without another encounter with Emily, and the day of my brother's wedding arrived. This time, to avoid embarrassing my brother, I had a suit custom made. The ceremony was to be held in a luxurious chapel of a renowned hotel. Holding the invitation, I approached the reception. 2 dazzlingly dressed women stood at the reception desk. As I handed over my invitation, they checked the name and began to giggle. Was there something funny about my appearance? It was my first time with a custom suit, so I wasn't sure, but I'd be embarrassed if it was inappropriate for the occasion. It shouldn't be a breach of etiquette. We've heard all about you from Emily. You only graduated from high school, right? Is that suit rented? It doesn't quite seem to fit you properly. With their light, bell-like laughter, they looked down on me. Indeed, I am a high school graduate. But that doesn't mean I lead a life worthy of scorn. More than that, isn't it exceedingly rude to treat someone you've just met this way? Though I felt this way, today was a special day for my brother. I didn't want to cause a scene and spoil it for him. Could you please hurry with the registration? I'd like to go and offer my congratulations to my brother. Trying to maintain my composure, I responded, which only seemed to irritate the women further. This isn't really a place for people like you, you know. Taking advantage of the chairman's kindness a bit too much, aren't we? They seemed about the same age as Emily, likely in their 20s. Being berated by these young women, an indescribable irritation swelled within me. Regardless, you should be thankful to Emily for sending the invitation and arranging a seat for you. Exactly. You're probably just here for the food, right? We'd appreciate it if you left after eating. What has Emily been telling them? No, everyone, about me. It seems I'm perceived as a high school graduate leeching off my brother. Please, just hurry up and... I was about to ask them to finish the registration when they probably noticed the line forming behind me. Then, please go ahead. Just make sure not to sit in the wrong seat. With a flurry of movement, they completed the paperwork, shooing me away as if I were a stray dog. Sighing with fatigue, I headed to the groom's waiting room. After knocking and receiving a reply, I entered. Congratulations, brother. Henry, thank you, that suit suits you well. He complimented my custom-made suit. You're not usually one to care about appearances, but it's good to dress up properly now and then. My brother laughed heartily, and I couldn't help but smile back. I actually wanted to ask you to give a speech. Come on, that's not really my thing. Too embarrassing. The thought of giving a speech at the wedding of my brother, a big company chairman, was too daunting for me. After reminiscing and enjoying each other's company, it was time for me to leave for the ceremony. The grand and lavishly decorated venue was filled with numerous tables, with some guests already enjoying lively conversations. I began searching for my seat. I was looking forward to celebrating my brother from a seat close to the groom's side. However, where the groom's family was supposed to sit, an unfamiliar man was seated. Puzzled but moving on, I checked my invitation and searched for my seat. And there, amidst the celebratory gathering, was a table set apart, standing alone. It was clearly placed in isolation, and on it was a nameplate with my name. Despite checking multiple times, my name was indeed listed there. Isn't this a bit too harsh? I can ignore the disdain directed at me. It's not worth worrying about. But what is this? A joyous celebration for my respected brother. I came here to witness his happiness up close. There's no reason for me to be treated like an outsider, hidden away at a distance. I consider myself a patient person, but this was too much to bear. Then, a familiar, mocking voice came from behind. "Oh, you actually showed up. How presumptuous of you." Her high-pitched laughter was grating. "Emily, what is the meaning of this? A regular employee with a low education sits at the back." She whispered in a low voice, her laughter booming as if she found great joy in the situation. Noticing her voice, a few people turned their gaze toward us. I knew I shouldn't cause a scene. Yet, I couldn't let this go. Just as I was about to raise my voice in anger, I noticed a gentleman approaching. "Could you be Henry Smith, by any chance?" I nodded in response to the gentleman's inquiry. "Yes, that's me, but who might you be?" It's only natural that you wouldn't know me. However, I am indebted to you." What is he talking about? I was puzzled and a bit panicked when I heard that the gentleman was Kenneth, a well-known investor. "Mr. Smith, the technology you've developed over the years at your IT company is remarkable. I was hospitalized for a long time, preparing myself for the worst." The gentleman standing before me, though elderly, exuded an aura of refinement and dignity with his upright posture and polished demeanor. He looked well and healthy. "It was the cutting-edge program and system you developed and provided for a medical device, regardless of profit, that saved me." I was taken aback, my eyes wide in surprise. "It's all thanks to you." I hurriedly tried to correct the gentleman. "Please stop, I was just helping a friend." At the time, a friend who worked at a medical equipment manufacturer approached me for advice. They were developing a device that could save many lives, but they were struggling with the programming. They wondered if there was anything I could do to help. Impressed by my friend's innovative ideas, I helped with the development of this groundbreaking device. All I did was create a system and program to ensure the device worked smoothly. It wasn't me who saved this gentleman. It was my friend. Yes, I've thanked him as well, but he said that without you, that device could never have been made. The gentleman's words caused a stir around us. "I'm an investor. I understand the value of such technology. You provided it at almost no cost. This wasn't a project for my company. Though it demanded a fair amount of effort, the fact that the device could save many lives was undeniable. Knowing that, I simply couldn't refrain from lending a hand. My friend was the one who provided the device to hospitals at an exceptionally low price. He tried to share the profits with me, but I only accepted a small sum and declined the rest. The profits should be used to create more devices that could save others." It seemed the gentleman was aware of all these exchanges. Upon the gentleman's words, one man began to clap. This applause gradually spread, and before I knew it, the surrounding people were looking at me with eyes filled with respect. What is this all about? There's no way this man, this poorly educated leech, could be so incredible. Emily's voice echoed, and the hall fell silent. Most people looked at her in disbelief. The gentleman, too, stared at Emily with a stern look, different from the one he had given me. "You are Miss Parker, the daughter of the Parker family, I presume," I did advise James. With a heavy sigh, the gentleman spoke in a cold tone to Emily. "That's right, I'm the bride, I'm far above him in status." "Status, you say, that you are superior to Henry?" "Of course, I am the eldest daughter of the Parker family. No matter how prestigious your family may be, it doesn't make you superior. Miss, what have you achieved? Emily was at a loss for words at the gentleman's question. Given her age, just out of college, she likely had no work experience. There couldn't be any achievements to speak of. As Emily trembled with humiliation, some men, drawn by the commotion, approached. Leading them was the man who had been seated at the groom's side. The men following him might belong to his faction. "What's going on with our daughter?" came a low voice, barely concealing irritation. So it was Emily's father, Nathan, all along. He's about the same age as me. Why would someone like him give his daughter in marriage to my older brother? I can't help but suspect there might be an ulterior motive. Dad, these people insulted me. At his daughter's outcry, Nathan turned his gaze toward us. To raise your voice, even though you're a well-known investor, what is the problem? Nathan blatantly ignored me, addressing the gentleman instead, who frowned in response. I merely came to express my gratitude to him. It was your daughter who started insulting him and causing a scene. The gentleman pointed out that Emily was the one being rude. And you are. You're James's younger brother, aren't you? Surprising to see you show your face at the wedding. Quite bold, aren't you? There's no reason for you to disrespect me like this. I am his family. It's only natural for me to be here to celebrate. I finally let out what I had been holding back. Yes, I am the brother's sibling, his only family. I have no reason to be criticized by others for attending the wedding. Just as Nathan was about to say something more, my brother entered the hall with a brisk step. What's all this commotion? Did you come to greet my brother? Though he was smiling, I, who know my brother well, could tell it was a gesture he made when angry. James, this person was awful. Just because he's your brother, he was terrible to me. Be quiet for a moment. My brother's quiet words carried a strong, irrefutable command. Emily, who seemed about to cling to my brother in fear, froze in place. I'm aware of the various schemes you've been plotting. My brother spoke coldly, staring at Nathan and his entourage. I thought this might be a good opportunity to cleanse the company of its corruption. Nathan and his group's faces contorted at my brother's chuckle. They must have known what they were guilty of. What are you accusing me of? Recognizing the bluster in Nathan's flustered tone, my brother silently summoned a man. The man approached from behind Nathan with an unfazed expression. His entourage watched with incredulous faces. And to my surprise, I recognized the man's face. He was an old childhood friend who had joined my brother's company about 10 years ago to help us out. Surprised that he and I seemed at odds since he joined, actually, he's a friend. Your actions have been completely transparent to us. While my brother smiled broadly, Nathan and his group began to tremble. What on earth is going on? Emily, too, looked bewilderedly at her father. I gathered you here under the pretext of a wedding reception. The company you were managing is currently being inspected by the tax authorities, in place of the employees here. If you do that, it will damage the company. This implies Nathan has something to hide. Indeed, an inspection of a large corporation like my brother's could lead to a scandal and potentially crash the stock prices. But my brother spoke firmly. So what? We've faced and overcome adversity and crises many times, thanks to the cooperation of trustworthy employees. And then he delivered a chilling statement. That's why we don't need someone we can't trust like you. That was the final blow. Following my brother's command, the police entered the hall, handed Nathan a warrant, and took him away. Watching this, Emily collapsed in tears. My brother, paying her no mind, walked over to me. I'm sorry you had to go through this. It must have been tough. Responding to my brother's kind words, I simply smiled back. What are you talking about? As long as you believe in me, that's all that matters. Amidst our conversation, A shrill cry cut through the air. It's so unfair. I just love James, that's all. You were wronged, and I apologize for that. However, what your father did is unforgivable. But what about the company? If Dad gets arrested, it'll be a disaster. That was something I was prepared for. Emily was speechless at her brother's calm reaction and despaired at his attitude when he stopped making eye contact. At that moment, the gentleman spoke to my brother. Indeed, your company might face tough times, but I believe in your future success and would like to invest in it. My brother and the gentleman shook hands with smiles on their faces. Meanwhile, Emily was sobbing, exclaiming how unbelievable and terrible this all was. Emily had been harsh to me. Honestly, I disliked her. However, I couldn't bear the thought of Emily and her mother suffering due to Nathan's crimes. Brother, may I have a moment? What is it, Henry? I was thinking about Emily. Could we possibly offer her a position at your company? Emily, having just graduated from college, had no job experience. Working in a top-tier company would be a significant challenge for her. Given her pride, she might even disdain menial tasks. Yet, she must work. For her remaining mother and for herself. Despite the unpleasant things Emily had said to me, her love for my brother was genuine, and I didn't want to abandon her. You really are something. All right, let's do that. Emily, tears still streaming down her face, silently nodded in agreement. Following the exposure of Nathan's corruption, my brother's company did suffer a temporary setback, but it was fundamentally strong. With the dedication of its employees and investment from the renowned investor, the company has fully recovered its vitality. I then resigned from my long-term job and joined my brother's company. As promised years ago, my brother had established an IT-related firm, and I was slated to become its CEO. Though new to a leadership role, I was determined to use my experience and knowledge to guide and mentor the younger generation. Years have passed since then. My brother and I were visiting our parents' graves. Much time has flowed since we lost our parents. Now, at last, the two of us are working together in a company passed down from our parents. We vowed at their graves to continue growing the company, supporting each other as brothers. And in the gentle sunlight, we walk side by side under the dappled shade, heading down a bright path together. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for gathering here today for the wedding of Alex and Emily. I am overjoyed that the wedding of our beloved daughter is being held in this manner. As the speech began unexpectedly, all eyes in the venue turned to Brian, the father of the bride. I noticed the perplexed expressions of my brother Alex and his fiancée Emily, which concerned me. Could it be that an unplanned speech had just started? While worrying about this, I listened attentively to Brian's words. Then, Brian uttered something shocking. However, there is one concern I have. It's about Alex's brother. As a company executive and a city council member, I will be related to him too, but I am uneasy about the fact that he only finished middle school. It is a disgrace to our family. Brian's words enveloped the room in a heavy silence. Feeling humiliated that I was being demeaned and frustrated that Alex and Emily's wedding was being ruined, I wanted to drag Brian away from the microphone. However, my brother acted before I could. Alex took the microphone from Brian and said in disbelief, "Don't you know who my brother is? It's a big problem with you, a city council member, don't even know that. My name is Michael. In my 30s, I work for an IT company. When I mention the name of my company, people often get surprised and mistakenly think I am talented, but that's not the case at all. My father used to work for a major company, but after being laid off due to economic downturns, he succumbed to alcohol. From then on, our family life changed drastically. We sold our spacious house and moved into a small apartment, leading to a poor lifestyle. Even before I was fully aware, I had been engaged in various extracurricular activities like French and piano lessons, but those were no longer feasible. In addition to that, I couldn't even expect to get sweets when going shopping, and I had to wear hand-me-downs from my brother or clothes given by acquaintances. My mother worked from early in the morning till late at night, but due to my father's breakdown from the layoff and his subsequent drinking, our financial situation must have been very tight. I remember always feeling hungry. Despite my mother's hard work, our living standards didn't improve. My brother Alex and I, despite being children, discussed various things to alleviate our mother's burden. We never pestered for toys and shared chores like cleaning and laundry to ensure our mother wasn't overburdened. We can do much now, but when we grow up, we'll learn money and make life easier for Mom, Alex would often say to me when we were in elementary school. When Alex was in his third year of junior high, his teacher, Mr. Smith, would often visit our home to discuss Alex's future with our mother. Being a primary school student back then, I didn't fully grasp the complexity of these discussions, but it seemed like Mr. Smith was suggesting that Alex should attend a regular high school. Alex has excellent grades and will surely perform well in high school. He has the potential to pass the entrance exams of prestigious universities, Mr. Smith insisted, but Alex firmly refused in front of our mother and Mr. Smith. I have something I want to do after graduating from junior high. I clearly remember my brother saying that to Mr. Smith. I immediately understood that what my brother wanted to do was to make life easier for our mother. I'm not sure how Mr. Smith understands it, but he left that day saying, "There's still time, so please talk it over." Despite Alex's firm decision on his path, Mr. Smith seemed unwilling to give up and visited several more times. Usually, my mother would handle these visits, but on one occasion, my father, who was often out gambling or drinking, happened to be home. During their discussion, my father became furious with Mr. Smith. After that, Mr. Smith never came to our house again, which probably settled the decision that Alex wouldn't pursue high school. After graduating from junior high, Alex announced he would join the military and left home. Witnessing these exchanges and growing up seeing my brother's actions, I naturally felt the urge to think about my future and decide on a path early. I've admired my brother for always choosing his path without hesitation since I was young. About 20 years had passed since then. Since we both started working, we were busy and only met each other once every few years, but I recently received a rare call from my brother. "I have someone I want you to meet. Can you make some time?" he said. The joy I felt when I heard he was getting married was indescribable. Alex, who always put our mother and family first, was now walking a path towards his own happiness. I managed to make time and attended the meeting of both families. "I'm Michael, Alex's brother. Nice to meet you. This is Emily, and this is her dad, Brian, who is a city council member. Mom has met him, but it's your first time, right?" Following Alex's introduction, Emily, his fiancée, greeted me with a charming smile. I was happy to see Alex find such a wonderful person, and at the same time, I felt relieved that our father wasn't there. My father's unhealthy lifestyle finally caught up with him, and now he's been hospitalized long-term. I haven't seen him for many years, so I'm not sure about the specifics of how he's been living. But based on my memories, I feared he might ruin this meeting, so as much as I feel bad for him, it's probably best for him to focus on his treatment in the hospital. I thought today would be a good day, but my optimism was misplaced. As soon as we toasted, Brian started asking about our childhood. "I heard you didn't have the best environment during your school days. You must have faced many hardships, right?" As Brian looked into my eyes and asked this, I couldn't help but tense up. Despite his words, his tone didn't sound very friendly. He might not think highly of our family's circumstances. I worried that his poor impression could negatively affect my brother's marriage. Nervously, I spoke about our situation. "That's correct. We were in a tough financial situation back then and had to work together as a family to make ends meet. Could you tell me more? It seems neither of you went to college. It appeared Brian was also concerned about our education. Indeed, having two family members who both didn't finish high school might naturally cause concern. Being a city council member, Brian would want to avoid any negative rumors. But it wasn't out of laziness or dislike for studying that my brother and I didn't continue our education. While I'm not exceptionally gifted, my brother had the potential to be admitted to a prestigious university. I tried to explain our financial difficulties as clearly as possible, without leaving a bad impression. I started working right after graduating from middle school because I decided I wanted to contribute financially to our household. My brother left home to become a cadet in the military. These were sacrifices, not choices made out of a desire for leisure or personal pursuits. Looking back, it was tough, and I wouldn't want my own children to go through the same. I wanted to convey our unavoidable circumstances, but Brian seemed unconvinced. I'm not looking for excuses. Basically, it seems like, aside from Alex, you lacked a long-term perspective in planning your life. Being directly contradicted like that left me at a loss for words. I couldn't muster a response. Brian continued, as if to rub salt in the wound. Logically, working straight out of middle school limits your earning potential. It's hardly different from high school students working part-time. Considering lifetime earnings, it was a short-sighted decision. I understood what Brian was saying, but I couldn't agree. At that time, my top priority was to ease my mother's burden. And I did earn significantly more than a high school student would with a part-time job, contributing a substantial amount to our household. Not only did I spend my days working part-time, but I also spared no effort in studying to increase my income. I woke up early to make time and found moments after late night shifts to significantly improve my self-taught programming skills. I had a genuine interest in the field, so the study itself wasn't painful, but affording a computer and managing household chores made it far from an easy life. Even if it was tough, if both of you were earning, you shouldn't have been in poverty. Maybe there was significant mismanagement of money. I glanced at my mother. She looked uncomfortable and was looking down. She wouldn't deny anything herself, so I spoke up on her behalf. Indeed, we did contribute financially to the household, hoping it would ease the burden. However, we couldn't make life easier for our mother. It's true that I gave money to my mother, but she couldn't reduce her working hours. There were two reasons. One reason was that my father's dependency on alcohol and gambling wasn't the only issue. He had also accumulated debt. The other was that, although I thought I was contributing financially to the household, my mother had actually been saving all the money I gave her. I discovered this when I was studying programming after my part-time job. Back then, I couldn't afford to buy a computer, so I convinced a friend to give me their old one, which were about to be thrown away, by saying, "If you're going to throw it away, give it to me." The computer was so slow that it took nearly 10 minutes to start up and often froze while I was typing. Frozen again. This is useless for studying. Frustrated by the computer's frequent crashes, I couldn't help but raise my voice in anger. My mother, who had silently approached, placed a thick envelope on the keyboard. "What's this? What do you mean by this?" Even before opening the envelope, I had a hunch about what my mother had left. It was an amount of money I had never seen before. "Spend this to buy a computer. It's your money." "What are you doing?" I gave you this money hoping it would make things a bit easier for you." My mother had saved every penny I gave her without spending any of it. Realizing that my efforts hadn't really helped my mother felt empty. Yet knowing I could now buy a computer with more than enough specifications with this money left me with mixed feelings. "This is for all the experiences you sacrificed. I'm not happy when you do such things," my mother said with a smile. Emily, who had been listening to my story, was attentively following along, occasionally sniffling. I had never told my brother this story, so he looked solemn, saying, "I had no idea such things had happened." But Brian seemed unsettled, as if something didn't sit right with him. "I'm concerned about the lack of proper communication within the household. Emily, are you and Alex able to talk things out properly?" Questioned by Brian, Emily showed a reaction as if to say she was taken aback by the rudeness. "Dad, that's quite rude. Michael has been enduring hardships and making efforts, and there are no issues between Alex and me." After being sharply rebuked by Emily, Brian, with a sour expression, stood up. "The dinner seems to be spoiled for me now, so I'll excuse myself. Goodbye." Ignoring Emily's attempt to stop him with a "wait a minute," Brian left the private room. "I'm sorry. My father is stubborn and impolite, and I apologize for any discomfort he may have caused." Neither my mother nor I contradicted Emily's words, but the dinner ended in an awkward atmosphere. I wondered what would happen next after the meeting, but Alex and Emily's relationship continued to go well, and the wedding date was set without any issues. Today is the long-awaited wedding of Alex and Emily. The ceremony was movingly conducted with blessings from the attendees, and we moved to the reception venue. Sitting at the same table as my mother and watching Alex and Emily beside me, I felt tears welling up seeing the happy couple. As the toast was made and the venue enveloped in a warm atmosphere, Brian stood at the microphone stand and began to speak. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for gathering here today for the wedding of Alex and Emily. I am overjoyed that the wedding of our beloved daughter is being held in this manner." As the speech began, all eyes in the venue turned to Brian. The perplexed expressions on Alex and Emily's faces concerned me. Could it be that an unplanned speech had just started? While worried, I listened to Brian's words. Then, Brian uttered something shocking. "However, there is one concern I have. It's about Alex's brother. As a company executive and a city council member, I will be related to him too, but I am uneasy about the fact that he only finished middle school. It is a disgrace to our family. Was he drunk?" His face flushed and his speech slightly slurred. Brian's words cast a heavy silence over the venue. It's unthinkable to say such a thing on his daughter's special day. Feeling humiliated and frustrated that Alex and Emily's wedding was being ruined, I wanted to drag Brian away from the microphone. But Alex acted before I could. Alex took the microphone from Brian and said in disbelief, "Don't you know who my brother is? It's a big problem with you, a city council member, don't even know that." "Hey, Alex, what are you talking about? Your brother is just a hopeless middle school graduate. He's a burden to society," Brian ranted. After calming Brian down, Alex addressed the attendees from the microphone. "I don't want any misunderstandings among our honored guests, so let me take this moment to clarify. Michael is a brother I'm proud of. There's no such thing as a burden to society, but please allow me to share how much my brother has contributed to society." I wished he wouldn't go on, but everyone in the venue was listening to Alex's words. I couldn't do anything but silently listen. Alex began to speak highly of my current endeavors to save face for me. Our town is currently advancing a smart city project. A smart city is a community development aimed at using cutting-edge technologies like ICT to enhance efficiency and create a more livable society. The project is moving forward in coordination with national and regional officials, including city council members. As it turns out, I was selected as one of the engineers capable of transforming society. Having worked in system development in the IT department of a major company, my achievements and skills have been recognized. My current company values my abilities regardless of my educational background, and I've been supported by many people to get where I am today, so I've never thought of myself as anything special. However, my brother praised me, lifting me up as someone who contributes to making our society a better place to live. However, it seems Brian was not aware of my brother's contributions. So as a city council member, I ask for your support," my brother said before returning to his seat. From the audience, there were envious glances towards me, accompanied by murmurs of, "Is he really doing his job as a city council member?" Embarrassed, Brian's face turned red as he quietly returned to his seat. Feeling self-conscious under everyone's gaze, I excused myself to the restroom, greeting people along the way. As if looking for me, Brian and I bumped into each other as I was leaving the restroom and heading back to the venue. Seeing me, Brian gave a wry smile. "I can't believe a middle school graduate like you is involved in our city's project. If someone like you is involved, this project might end up failing." Just as I was utterly astounded by his continued sarcasm, a voice echoed down the corridor, exclaiming, "Dad." Turning around, I saw Emily, looking stern as she was about to go change her dress. "Are you still saying such things? How much do you intend to hurt people? If you're going to talk like that, you might as well go home." Emily was visibly upset, and in her emotional state, she pushed past a stunned Brian. The venue staff tried to calm her down, but she left saying, "I don't care about Dad anymore." Leaving a shell-shocked Brian behind, I returned to my seat. Apart from Brian's unexpected speech, the ceremony went smoothly. Members of the military, colleagues of my brother, attended despite their busy schedules, and their energetic and humorous performances were a highlight. A speech by Emily's best friend, representing the Friends, conveyed Emily's wonderful personality, moving me to tears. As the ceremony neared its end, it was time for Emily's speech. Receiving the microphone from the staff, Emily looked over the venue and expressed her gratitude. "I'm truly grateful to everyone who took the time to join us today. I'm deeply touched to celebrate this special moment with all of you." Turning to my brother, she continued her heartfelt thanks. "Alex, you are the most important person in my life. Every day with you is special to me. I know your work in the military is challenging, but I'll be here to support you, so please, let's continue this journey together." After greeting the groom's family and friends, Emily turned to face her mother. She reflected on her challenging childhood, apologizing for the trouble she caused during her rebellious teenage years and for the harsh words she had spoken. "I am who I am because of you, Mom. I'll strive to be a wonderful woman like you, supporting and loving my family. Thank you, and I look forward to our future together." Emily's mother, holding back tears, nodded repeatedly. Brian seemed contemplative, listening intently, with his eyes closed. Finally, Emily paused before turning to face Brian. "Dad, today was an irreplaceable, special day for me. Yet, you spoke words that could easily hurt others, and I was deeply disappointed in you." The venue fell silent at Emily's unexpected rebuke. Brian, not anticipating to be criticized, looked pale as he faced Emily. As the entire venue watched in anticipation, wondering what would happen next, Emily bit her lip and said, "But." Then, with tears streaming down her face and her voice trembling, she spoke. "I fought about cutting ties, but you're still my only father. I apologize to everyone, especially Michael, for the discomfort caused. Please forgive my father. Dad, please, no more shameful actions. Stay the proud father you once were." Brian nodded repeatedly at Emily's words. Then, looking towards me and making eye contact, he deeply apologized. Seeing this, Emily wiped her tears and smiled at Brian. "Lastly, I want to express my heartfelt thanks for your warm wishes and support. I'll cherish this day as a treasured memory. Thank you." Emily's speech turned the atmosphere around, and the venue erupted in applause. On the train home, I was looking at photos of Alex and Emily sent to my cell phone. A week after their wedding, they seemed to be enjoying their happy days. Looking at the photos from the wedding, I was convinced they would continue to be a wonderful couple. Motivated, I pocketed my phone and got off the train. Today's meeting will determine the direction of the project I'm working on. It's crucial to get some of our proposals accepted for the project to succeed. Taking a deep breath, I headed to the meeting venue. This Smart City initiative is in its final stages. The meeting was attended by city council members, executives from major companies, government officials, and the superintendent of education, among other distinguished members. The meeting progressed amid a tense atmosphere. When the facilitator asked for an explanation about our company's role, I took the microphone. By utilizing AI and big data, we can address the city's traffic issues and extend people's healthy life expectancy. To achieve this, we need to allocate the necessary data and budget. As I was about to continue with my explanation, pointing to the relevant pages in the documents, a clearly dissatisfied sigh could be heard. One of the city council members raised their hand and interrupted with an objection. What's the point of all this? Older people like us can't understand all the anxiety and data talk, and what if citizens' data is leaked? I might consider it if the national government covers all the costs, but we can't use the city's budget for something the citizens won't understand. His statement, which seemed to undermine the entire project, sent a chill down my spine. Other companies and officials also seemed to sense the negative mood and looked at me as if urging me to rebut. Amidst this, Brian raised his hand to speak. We shouldn't fear change. Society is going to evolve at an astonishing rate. For the sake of our children and grandchildren and the new generations, we need to make bold decisions. I fully support this proposal. As Brian spoke, the previously vocal council member retorted angrily, "You were against it just a while ago. Whose side are you on anyway?" Unperturbed, Brian continued calmly. It's not about taking sides, but about choosing what's best for the citizens. To me, it seems like you're afraid of change and opposition, preferring to maintain the status quo. Everything changes, and if it must, I'd rather it change for the better. Moreover, Brian added, clearing his throat, there's room for improvement in the budget. We can review and cut unnecessary expenses. Let's not immediately reject the idea but consider it first. No one opposed Brian's words. The meeting continued with discussions on specific strategies and content, moving in a positive direction. Later, I was called by my boss during work. I received joyful news. The Smart City project was approved, and I was to continue being involved. I was asked to work on system development for infrastructure and a health management app in collaboration with engineers from another major company, which I gladly accepted. Despite a difficult childhood, I've learned that effort is rewarded. My mother will surely be happy to hear this news. Doing well in my job might be the best way to show filial piety. With these thoughts, I proceeded with my work. About 2 years later, I received great news from Alex. He announced the birth of their first child, a healthy boy. Though I wanted to visit right away, I decided to wait a bit since newborns shouldn't go out much or get sick, according to what I read online. When the day finally came to visit, I found Brian already there, playing with the baby. "Dad, you don't need to use baby talk. It's not like you." "What are you talking about?" Seeing such a cute grandson naturally changes how I speak. Watching their exchange, both Alex and I couldn't help but laugh. Observing Brian's completely different demeanor from our first meeting, I pondered the changes in him. What if Brian hadn't supported me at that meeting? Where would we be now? People in the world have been changing. If it's going to change anyway, I want it to change for the better. I found myself reflecting on what Brian used to speak those words back then and what he is. I couldn't help but think that Brian decided to change after the wedding. While I can't be sure, recalling his demeanor after Emily's speech, it seems likely. Encouraged by Brian, I held Alex and Emily's child. Though the baby's vision might still be developing, it seemed as if he could sense a stranger holding him because he wouldn't stop crying no matter how much I tried to soothe him. "What's wrong? Do you prefer Grandpa? Come here," Brian said, and the baby stopped crying as he took him. We laughed again at Brian's joyful expression. Though my current project is far from over, I'm determined to make our hometown a happy place for Alex's child. watching everyone's smiling faces. I made that promise to myself.